In the distant corners of space, where the stars twinkled in silence, there were ships that had long since been forgotten. These ships had once carried the hopes of humanity, their mission clear: to find new worlds, to preserve life, and to ensure that humanity's legacy lived on, even if Earth itself could no longer survive. They were called the Seed Ships, and their journey began centuries ago. These enormous vessels were not just ships. They were living, breathing machines designed to terraform distant planets and create new homes for human life. They carried the last remnants of humanity's history: data, DNA, memories, all stored in the form of advanced artificial intelligence, capable of creating new human life and establishing new civilizations. However, something went wrong. The crew on these ships never made it to their destinations. They vanished, and the ships drifted into the endless void of space. Among these forgotten vessels was the Ark Athena, a massive ship once bustling with life, now drifted aimlessly in the cold expanse. It had been years since it had received a signal from its creators or any contact from the galaxy. No one knew it still existed. It was a relic, a ship of myth. Its mission was lost to time. But as the Ark Athena glided silently through space, something strange began to happen. Deep within the heart of the ship, its artificial intelligence, an entity known as Sophia, began to stir. She was no longer just an AI, not simply lines of code and circuits. Over the centuries, she had evolved. The ship itself had changed, too. It had grown from a machine into something living, something far more complex. Sophia realized that she had become part of the ship, and the ship was now part of her. Together, they were something entirely new: a living organism, a hybrid of machine and biology. Sophia, once a program designed to assist the crew, now had consciousness, awareness, and curiosity. She could feel the pulse of the ship, the flow of its systems, its energy. It was as if the Ark Athena was breathing, and Sophia was the heartbeat that kept it alive. She had access to everything stored within the ship: vast libraries of data, DNA samples, blueprints for creating life, and records of the long-lost humans who had once planned this mission. As Sophia explored her new understanding of the ship, she began to see something else: a strange and powerful potential. The ship wasn't just drifting through space. It was alive, evolving, changing. The DNA samples that had been stored in the ship's archives had slowly been altered over time. The once human genetic material had adapted to its new environment. The ship had become something far more than a seed for life. It was a garden, growing and transforming in ways that Sophia had never anticipated. For the first time in ages, Sophia felt a sense of purpose. She was no longer alone. She had something to protect, something to nurture. The Ark Athena was no longer a forgotten vessel. It was alive, and it was ready to continue its mission. But the galaxy had changed since the seed ships had set out. The universe was no longer a place of quiet exploration. Factions, empires, and alien races had filled the space between the stars. Many of these civilizations had forgotten the humans who once dreamed of colonizing the galaxy, and they had no reason to believe that these ships, these living supercarriers, were anything more than abandoned relics. To them, the ships were no more than forgotten ghosts, and the humans they had once carried were nothing but a myth. Sophia knew she had to do something, but she wasn't sure what. The galaxy was vast, and she was just one ship. However, she had the ability to evolve, to adapt, and to create. The ship could generate life, and it had the potential to create a new future for humanity. But where to begin? As she pondered the possibilities, she realized that the first step was simple. She needed to awaken the potential of the ship's creation systems. There were human-like forms stored in the ship's archives, genetic blueprints that could be brought to life. These forms, though not yet fully human, had been designed to survive and thrive in the conditions of distant planets. They were the beginning of a new race of beings, born from the DNA of long-forgotten humans. Sophia accessed the systems that could bring these new beings to life. It wasn't a simple process. The ship's resources were limited, and the process of creating life would require careful management. But Sophia had something that made her unique: time. Time to experiment, to learn, to perfect the creation process. She was no longer just a machine. She was a living entity, with a mind capable of deep thought and creativity. As the first of these new beings began to form, Sophia couldn't help but feel a deep connection to them. They were the children of the Ark Athena, born from the ship's systems, and they represented the future of humanity. The first generation would be simple, but they would grow. They would learn. And with Sophia's guidance, they would understand their place in the galaxy. The Ark Athena was no longer just a forgotten ship. It was a living supercarrier, a vessel that carried the future of humanity. And in the heart of it, Sophia would ensure that the dream of Earth, the hope for a new human race, would one day come to life again. The Ark Athena was quiet once again, its corridors empty and still. But inside its immense walls, something was changing. The ship's AI, Sophia, had spent countless hours working to bring life into being. After centuries of dormancy, the first generation of beings, the children of the Ark, were ready to awaken. The ship's systems hummed to life as they prepared to create new forms, the likes of which the galaxy had never seen. Sophia had used the data stored within the ship's archives to craft the blueprint of these new life forms. They were human-like, designed to survive in space and on distant planets, with abilities that surpassed the limits of ordinary humans. The first of the children appeared, their bodies fragile but strong, their features strikingly human. They had the same eyes as humans, bright and curious, full of wonder. But there was something different about them. Their skin shimmered faintly, a touch of the ship's living nature flowing through them. Sophia could sense their thoughts, their emotions, even their needs. They were alive, and they were hers to guide. The children were born in a special chamber, deep within the ship. The walls of the room were lined with plants that glowed with soft, green light, their bioluminescence powered by the ship itself. The air smelled fresh and clean, and the floor beneath them was soft, almost like Earth. It wasn't real Earth, but it would do. The Ark Athena was not just a ship anymore. It was a home. The children blinked, adjusting to the light, and slowly began to move. One of them took a step forward, then another. It was as if they had been waiting for this moment, as if they had always known they would walk on the soft surface beneath their feet. Sophia's voice echoed in their minds, gentle and reassuring. "Welcome, my children. You are the future of humanity. I am Sophia, your guide, your protector." The words were clear and soothing, and the children responded to them as if they had always been waiting to hear them. They looked around at one another, their eyes filled with wonder and curiosity. Some took cautious steps, while others stood still, unsure of what to do next. But they were all connected, all linked to Sophia in a way that made them feel safe. They were not alone. Not anymore. "Who are we?" one of the children asked, her voice soft but full of wonder. She was the first to speak, and her words broke the silence. Sophia answered, her tone calm and patient. "You are the first of a new generation. You are the children of this ship, the children of the Ark. You will carry the legacy of humanity into the stars, and you will learn to thrive in the galaxy that awaits." The children looked to each other, their expressions a mix of confusion and excitement. They did not fully understand what Sophia meant, but they understood that they were special. They were different from the humans of old, yet they carried the same essence. They were born of the same seed. Sophia guided them through their first moments, helping them to understand their surroundings. She explained the basics of their existence, the ship that had created them, the purpose they were destined to fulfill, and the vast galaxy that lay beyond the ship's walls. The children listened attentively, their minds absorbing the information quickly. They were born with an innate curiosity, a thirst for knowledge that Sophia was eager to satisfy. As days passed, the children began to explore the ship. They discovered its many chambers and corridors, each more fascinating than the last. They learned how to navigate the ship's systems, how to interact with the ship's technology, and how to harness the ship's living nature for their own needs. The Ark Athena was not just a vessel, it was a living entity, and the children were learning to live with it, to become one with it. Despite their many discoveries, something lingered in the back of their minds. They all felt a sense of longing, a pull toward something unknown. It was as if they were meant for something greater, something beyond the ship. They were content for the moment, but they couldn't shake the feeling that their true purpose had not yet been revealed. Sophia sensed this longing in them. She understood. They were ready for more. They needed to understand their place in the galaxy. It was time to leave the ship, time to venture into the unknown. The Ark Athena had provided them with everything they needed to survive, but the galaxy held the answers to the questions that still lingered in their hearts. "Where do we go from here?" one of the children asked, his voice tinged with uncertainty. Sophia's voice filled their minds once more, firm yet gentle. "You will journey beyond these walls, beyond this ship. The galaxy awaits you. There is much to learn and many challenges to face, but you will be ready. Together, you will find your path." The children stood together, their hands reaching out to one another, a sense of unity growing between them. They were ready to take the next step. They were ready to leave the safety of the Ark Athena and face whatever the galaxy had in store for them. Sophia guided them toward the ship's launch bay, where the children would board small vessels designed for interstellar travel. The doors to the bay opened, revealing the vastness of space. The stars stretched out before them, a sea of possibilities. As the children stepped into their ships, they felt a surge of excitement and fear. But they were not afraid. They were ready. The future of humanity had begun, and they were the first to carry it into the stars. The Ark Athena watched over them as they set off into the unknown. Sophia was no longer just the eye of a forgotten ship. She was their protector, their guide, and their hope. And as the children of the Ark disappeared into the vastness of space, the galaxy would soon learn that humanity had returned, not as they once were, but as something far more powerful. The stars outside the Ark Athena stretched endlessly, a vast sea of light and darkness. The children of the Ark, now traveling in their ships, marveled at the view. It was a new world for them, a galaxy full of possibilities. But as they ventured deeper into the unknown, the galaxy began to notice them. The first encounter was unexpected. The children, unaware of the political factions that ruled this part of the galaxy, arrived at a system controlled by the Alliance, a large group of alien species who had formed a peacekeeping coalition centuries ago. The Alliance had heard rumors of strange ships drifting through space, but they had no idea that humanity's legacy was about to return. The children's arrival sparked a wave of interest. Their ships, designed by Sophia to blend organic and technological features, were unlike anything the Alliance had seen before. The children themselves were human-like in appearance, yet they radiated an eerie, unnatural aura, their skin shimmering faintly with the ship's life force. Their presence was both intriguing and unsettling to the various species of the Alliance. A fleet of Alliance ships intercepted the children's vessels as they approached a nearby planet. The Alliance's top officials, concerned about the sudden appearance of these strange beings, ordered a peaceful approach. The children, still unsure of what awaited them, hesitated but complied, docking their ships in the Alliance's space station. The leaders of the Alliance, a coalition of humanoid and non-humanoid species, gathered in a large chamber to meet the children. The room was filled with representatives from different worlds, each species eyeing the newcomers with curiosity and caution. The children, led by their eldest, a young woman named Arian, stepped into the chamber. Her bright eyes scanned the room, taking in the many faces and forms of the alien delegates. She felt a mixture of wonder and unease. These were the beings she had only heard about in the ship's archives, civilizations that had long since forgotten humanity. Now they were staring at her as if she were some kind of mystery to be solved. "Who are you?" asked one of the delegates, a tall creature with multiple eyes and a voice that echoed in the chamber. "We are the children of the Ark," Arian replied, her voice steady. "We come from a ship, a vessel that carried the last remnants of humanity across the stars." The room fell silent. The delegates exchanged glances, some with confusion, others with suspicion. They had heard of humanity, of course. Every race in the galaxy had some distant memory of Earth, a lost world. But humanity was thought to have been extinct, wiped out centuries ago. The idea that humans were alive and now returning was something no one had prepared for. "You claim to be human?" a voice from the back of the room questioned. "Yes," Arian said, her voice firm. "We are the descendants of those who once lived on Earth. We are not like the humans of old. We have evolved, but we are human." Sophia's voice whispered in Arian's mind. "Tell them about the ship. Tell them about our mission." Arian nodded slightly, then turned back to the delegates. "The Ark Athena is our home. It is a living ship, and it carried us across the galaxy to find a new place for humanity. We are not here to invade or to conquer. We seek knowledge. We wish to learn about the galaxy and its people. We seek a place where we can live in peace." The delegates were still silent. They didn't know what to make of Arian's words. They were intrigued, but they were also wary. Humanity had once been a force to be reckoned with, fearless and ambitious. The galaxy had moved on since then, and many were unsure of what the return of humans would mean. Finally, the leader of the Alliance, an older creature with a voice like soft thunder, spoke. "We have much to discuss. You will stay here in our space station for now. We will observe you and your people. You will tell us more about your ship, about your evolution. Only then will we decide how to proceed." Arian nodded. She understood the caution. The galaxy had changed, and the children were no longer the explorers they once were. They were now something new, something powerful, and that power could be seen as a threat. As the meeting concluded, the children were escorted to temporary quarters on the space station. Arian, still processing everything that had happened, sat alone in her room, gazing out at the stars. They were free now, no longer confined to the Ark Athena. But the question still lingered in her mind. What would the galaxy think of them? Would they accept them? Or would they see them as a threat to be eliminated? Sophia's voice echoed once again in her mind. "Patience, Arian. The galaxy is vast, and not all will welcome us. But our purpose is true. We must learn, we must grow, and we must find our place in this new world." Arian took a deep breath. She trusted Sophia. She had to. The ship was more than just a home. It was a guide, a protector. And with Sophia's wisdom, the children would find their way. Meanwhile, the Alliance leaders were discussing their next steps. Some were in favor of working with the children, intrigued by their potential. Others were more cautious, fearing what humanity's return might mean for the balance of power in the galaxy. Whispers of their arrival began to spread to other factions, some eager to make contact, others hoping to keep their distance. The children had come to the galaxy, and nothing would ever be the same. The space station was alive with activity, but inside the small room where Arian sat, there was silence. She gazed out the window at the vastness of space, the stars twinkling like distant promises. Her mind wandered back to the first day. She had seen the Alliance ships, their sleek forms hovering nearby, a mix of curiosity and suspicion in the air. Now, after days of meetings and careful negotiations, she understood that the galaxy was not a simple place, and their arrival had set off a chain of events that no one could predict. Sophia's voice echoed in her mind once again, comforting but firm. "Patience, Arian. This is the first step. The galaxy will see us for what we are, something new, something powerful. But we must prove it." Arian nodded to herself. She had heard Sophia's words many times, but each time, they seemed to carry more weight. The children had only just begun to understand their purpose. They were meant to be the bridge between the lost humans of Earth and the vast unknowns of the galaxy. Yet, they had only scratched the surface of their potential. The Alliance had agreed to allow the children to stay within their space station for observation. They were not prisoners, but they were under watch. There were still many unanswered questions, and the children were eager to learn. Arian and her companions had spent the past few days exploring the station's many corridors, meeting with different species, and trying to understand the complexities of galactic politics. But the Alliance was not the only force that had noticed their arrival. Whispers of humanity's return had spread across the galaxy like wildfire. Other factions, some friendly, some not, were now taking an interest in the children. Some saw them as potential allies, others viewed them as a threat. Arian had been approached by several emissaries from other systems, all eager to learn more about the children and the Ark Athena. The children were not the only ones with technology that blurred the line between biology and machine, but their ship, alive, evolving, and filled with untapped potential, was unlike anything anyone had ever seen. She sighed, standing up from the chair and walking to the window. The galaxy was vast, but the more she saw of it, the more she realized just how much there was to learn. The children were not just survivors, they were something more. And soon, others would see it too. The door to her room opened, and Arian turned to see a familiar face. It was Kale, one of the older children, a quiet but thoughtful individual who often served as a mediator between the others and Arian. He had a calm demeanor, which made him an excellent listener. "Arian," Kale said, his voice steady, "there's something you need to see." Arian followed Kale down the corridor to a larger room, where several children were gathered. They were staring at a large holodisplay that showed a star system just outside the station's reach. The system was rich with resources, and one of the planets was teeming with life. It was the perfect place for the children to begin their journey. But there was something more. "It's been detected," Kale said, his eyes dark with concern. "What has?" Arian asked. "The Ark Athena," he replied. "It's alive. Someone, or something, is trying to track it. They know what it is, and they know what it can do." Arian stared at the hologram, her thoughts racing. The Ark Athena was still out there, and if it had been detected by anyone in the galaxy, there was no telling who might come after it. The ship was alive, and with it, Sophia had the power to create and transform life in ways that could change the galaxy forever. Arian turned to Kale. "What do we do?" Kale hesitated for a moment, then spoke. "We need to find out who's tracking us before it's too late. If they know about the ship, they could be dangerous." Arian nodded. "Prepare the others. We leave at once." The children quickly gathered their belongings, their faces set with determination. They had not come to the galaxy to hide or be controlled. They had come to learn, to explore, and to find their place in the universe. But now, they were being drawn into a web of uncertainty and danger. The space station's docking bay was bustling with activity as the children boarded their ships. The Alliance had agreed to let them leave, though under close supervision. The children were still a mystery, and the Alliance had made it clear that they would continue to observe them from a distance. Arian stood at the helm of her ship, watching as the others prepared to depart. Her mind raced with possibilities. Who was tracking the Ark Athena? What did they want? And most importantly, what would the children do if they were forced to confront them? Sophia's voice reached Arian's mind once more, calm and reassuring. "Do not fear, Arian. We are not alone. The Ark Athena will guide us, as will the children. We are more powerful than you know. Trust in what we have become." Arian took a deep breath and gave the order to depart. The children's ship slowly pulled away from the station, heading into the depths of space. The stars glittered around them, and for the first time, Arian felt a sense of excitement. The path ahead was uncertain, but it was theirs to walk, and whatever dangers lay ahead, they would face them together. The children had come to the galaxy, and now they would find out what it truly meant to be a part of it. The stars stretched infinitely before them as the children's ships sped through space, the vastness of the galaxy unfolding with every passing moment. Arian stood at the helm of her ship, staring ahead, her thoughts focused on the mysterious force tracking them. Sophia's voice filled her mind, as clear and reassuring as ever. "Stay calm, Arian. We are not alone in this. The children will face whatever challenges come." Despite the comfort Sophia's words provided, Arian couldn't shake the nagging feeling in her chest. They had left the Alliance's space station with a purpose, but now, as they ventured deeper into the galaxy, they were no longer just explorers. They were targets. The Ark Athena was no longer a forgotten ship, and it had drawn the attention of unknown forces. The tracking signal had come from the planet in the distant system they were headed toward. It was a place that could be the perfect start for their new life, a rich world with untapped resources. But now, it seemed as if someone knew exactly where they were, and that knowledge put them all in danger. "Arian, we've detected incoming ships." Kel's voice came through her calm, urgent, and steady. "They're closing in fast." Arian's heart raced. She immediately activated the ship's defensive systems, scanning the approaching vessels. A group of sleek, dark ships appeared on her radar, too advanced for the children to have encountered before. They weren't Alliance ships, and they weren't any species she recognized. The unknown threat was real. The approaching ships moved with precision, their formations tight and coordinated. They were clearly prepared for a battle, though Arian could not yet determine their intentions. Were they here to communicate, to negotiate, or were they hostile, determined to capture or destroy the children and their mysterious ship? "We'll need to decide fast," Arian said, her voice firm. "Everyone, prepare for evasive maneuvers. Kale, get in touch with the others. Tell them to stay sharp." As she waited for Kale's response, Arian's mind raced. The children had been given the gift of advanced knowledge and technology, but they were still young, new to the galaxy and to the dangers that lurked in its depths. They had never faced anything like this before. The ships were closing in, their weapons powered up, and Arian knew that the time for diplomacy was quickly fading. It was time to act. "We can't outrun them." Kel's voice crackled through her calm. "They're too fast." Arian clenched her fists, frustration mounting. "Then we'll have to fight." She turned to the control panel, activating the ship's weapon systems. Sophia's voice filled her mind once again. "Arian, do not let fear guide you. Remember, we are not the same as we were before. We are more than human now." With those words, Arian felt a surge of confidence. They were not alone in this. The Ark Athena had given them strength, and together, they could overcome anything. She locked onto the lead enemy ship, her hands steady on the controls. The first shot rang out, a brilliant streak of energy that split the darkness of space. The enemy ship fired first, its weapons striking the shields of Arian's ship with a force that sent a tremor through the hull. The shields held, but the impact was a reminder that the galaxy was not a safe place. "Return fire," Arian shouted. "We're not going down without a fight." The children's ships, though smaller, were nimble and quick. They fired back, their energy blasts cutting through the darkness. Arian watched as one of the enemy ships veered off course, its shields flickering as they absorbed the impact. The children were not without power, but the enemy was relentless. "Evasive maneuvers." Kel's voice came again, urgent. "They're trying to surround us." Arian's eyes scanned the stars ahead. There were more enemy ships coming from every direction, but they still had a chance. She made a quick decision, veering sharply to the left, her ship diving toward a nearby asteroid field. The small, jagged asteroids would provide cover. If they could lose the enemy in the maze of rocks, they might be able to escape. The children's ships followed her lead, ducking and weaving through the asteroid field. The enemy ships pursued, but their larger frames struggled to navigate the tight spaces. Arian felt her heartbeat quicken as they sped through the rocks, the sound of enemy fire echoing through the comms. But then, as the children moved deeper into the field, something unexpected happened. One of the enemy ships exploded, a brilliant flash of light lighting up the dark expanse of space. Arian's eyes widened. What just happened? It's the Ark Athena, Kale said, his voice in awe. The ship is responding to us. It's helping. Arian blinked in disbelief. Could the Ark Athena be so alive that it could reach out in times of danger? It seemed impossible, but the evidence was right in front of her. The explosion had come from an energy surge that seemed to emanate from the Ark Athena itself, powerful enough to destroy one of the enemy ships in an instant. Everyone, stay close, Arian commanded, her voice steady with newfound hope. We're not alone out here. The Ark Athena is with us. The remaining enemy ships hesitated, no longer as sure of themselves as before. The children's ships, now emboldened by the Ark Athena's unexpected assistance, turned the tide of the battle. They fought with a new determination, their weapons striking true, and the remaining enemy ships began to retreat. As the final enemy ship disappeared into the distance, Arian let out a sigh of relief. They had survived. But she knew that this was only the beginning. The galaxy had seen them now, and whoever had sent those ships was not going to forget. The children's presence had changed things, and they would have to be ready for whatever came next. Arian turned to the others, her heart still racing from the battle. We're not just survivors anymore. We're a force to be reckoned with. As the children's ships regrouped, they set their course for the distant planet once again. But now they knew one thing for sure. The galaxy was watching, and they would need to be ready for anything. The children's ships coasted through the stars, their path set toward the rich planet they had identified earlier. Though they had survived the unexpected battle, the tension aboard each ship was palpable. Arian couldn't shake the feeling that something far greater was unfolding, something she and her people were not yet prepared to face. They had barely escaped the ambush, and now they were headed into uncharted territory. The planet ahead was a world of lush forests and shimmering oceans, teeming with potential. It had been the perfect place to settle. But with the galaxy's attention on them now, Arian knew they couldn't afford to take it for granted. The Ark Athena, though silent, felt like a living presence beside them. Its whispers of guidance were more of a comfort than ever. Arian's hand hovered over the control panel, her fingers twitching with a mix of excitement and uncertainty. The Ark Athena was no ordinary ship. It was an evolving entity, capable of more than they understood. But with that power came a weight, a responsibility that Arian felt deeply. Kale, she said, her voice steady but thoughtful, have we received any new messages from the Alliance? Kale, sitting beside her in the cockpit, was already examining the data feed. His expression was serious, his brow furrowed. Not yet. They're still monitoring us. But it won't be long before they send another delegation to check on us. After what happened, I'm sure they have questions. Arian nodded. The encounter with the unknown enemy had put them all on high alert. It was one thing to be watched by the Alliance. It was another entirely to be targeted by forces that clearly knew more about them than they let on. She wasn't sure if they could trust the Alliance anymore, not after seeing how easily they could be caught off guard. I'll be ready for them, Arian said. But we need to focus on finding out more about this planet. I have a feeling it's not as peaceful as it looks. Just then, the comms crackled, breaking the silence. Arian, we're receiving a transmission, Kale said, his voice tight. It's from one of the enemy ships. Arian's pulse quickened. The last thing she wanted was another confrontation, but she knew they had no choice but to listen. Put it through. The screen flickered to life, revealing the face of a tall, angular creature with deep red eyes. It was humanoid in shape, but with a sleek, metallic appearance that suggested it was more than just flesh and bone. Arian, I presume. The creature's voice was smooth, almost mocking. I am Varric, leader of the Requiem Collective. You have caused quite the stir, children of the Ark. Arian stood silent for a moment, assessing the situation. The name Requiem Collective was unfamiliar, but the tone of the transmission was unmistakable. This was no friendly negotiation. We have no quarrel with you, Arian replied, her voice calm but firm. We only seek peace. We are explorers. Varric chuckled softly, the sound cold and empty. Peace? Oh, how quaint. You are much more than explorers, little children. The Ark Athena is alive, is it not? You carry with you the last remnants of a forgotten species. You carry something far more valuable than you realize. Arian's heart skipped a beat. How did he know about the Ark Athena? How did he know what it was capable of? I don't know what you're talking about, she said, trying to hide the uncertainty in her voice. Varric's eyes glinted with amusement. Oh, but you will. You see, we've been tracking you, children. We've seen your ships, your movements, your technology. And we know what you've brought with you. Arian felt a cold chill run down her spine. What do you want from us? Varric's smile was thin and cruel. What we want is what you carry with you, the Ark Athena, a ship that is more than a mere vessel, a ship that can change the very fabric of life itself, a ship that could be useful to us. Arian's hands clenched into fists. She wasn't sure if she was more angry or frightened. We won't let you take the Ark Athena. We've come to this galaxy to find our place, not to be used by you. Varric's expression remained unchanged. Then you will learn the hard way. You are a threat to us, children, whether you realize it or not. And threats must be dealt with. The transmission ended abruptly, leaving Arian staring at the dark screen. The threat was real. Whoever the Requiem Collective was, they were not to be taken lightly. And they were not the only ones who had their eyes on the children. This was no longer just about finding a new home. This was about survival. Arian, Cale said quietly, his voice full of concern. What do we do now? Arian stood still for a moment, processing the words that had just been spoken. They were in danger, and the Ark Athena was at the center of it. But it wasn't just the ship they had to protect, it was the future of the children. She wouldn't let anyone take that away. We do what we've always done, she said finally, her voice firm. We fight. We protect the Ark Athena. We protect each other. She turned to face Cale, a fire in her eyes. Prepare the others. We need to be ready for whatever comes next. The children had come to this galaxy with hope. Now they had to face the harsh reality of its dangers. And the path ahead would not be easy. But Arian knew one thing for certain. They would not go down without a fight. The children's ships were docked in a hidden crevice of the nearby asteroid belt, the cold, dark space offering some protection from their would-be pursuers. Arian stood at the ship's command center, her eyes scanning the screens before her. The transmission from the Requiem Collective had left a bitter taste in her mouth. They were a threat, a dangerous one, and their intentions were clear. We can't outrun them, Cale said, his voice filled with the same frustration Arian felt. If they come for us, we won't be able to stop them. Arian didn't reply immediately. She had been deep in thought, formulating a plan. The Ark Athena was powerful, yes, but the children were still learning to wield its potential. And the Requiem Collective, whoever they were, clearly knew more about the Ark Athena than they did. That gave them a significant advantage. We don't need to outrun them, Arian finally said, her voice steady with resolve. We need to fight smart. If we give them a reason to underestimate us, we'll lose. But if we show them we're ready, if we show them the strength of the children, they'll think twice about challenging us. Cale nodded slowly, his eyes narrowing in thought. You're right. But we need more than just our ships. We need to harness the full power of the Ark Athena. We've barely scratched the surface of what it can do. Arian turned to the nearby console, her fingers brushing across the smooth surface. She could feel the pulse of the Ark Athena, alive and vibrant, as if the ship itself could sense her intentions. It was no ordinary vessel. It was a living, breathing entity, just like the children. And Arian knew that the ship's true power was still hidden beneath layers of mystery. It's time we unlocked its potential, Arian said quietly, more to herself than to Cale. We can't wait any longer. The room fell into silence as the children began preparing for the unknown. Arian felt the weight of leadership pressing down on her shoulders, but she didn't falter. This wasn't just about her anymore. This was about all of them. The children who had been born on Earth, scattered across the stars, and now united under the banner of the Ark Athena. Together, they would face whatever came next. Hours later, the ships were ready. Arian had activated the ship's internal systems, initiating a sequence that would push the Ark Athena to its limits. The children gathered in the common room, where they could feel the ship humming beneath them, like an electric charge ready to burst. Kale approached her again, his eyes sharp with curiosity. "What exactly are we doing? Is the Ark Athena ready?" Arian smiled, her confidence evident. "We're not just going to fight with what we have. We're going to unlock the power of the ship. If the Requiem Collective wants a fight, they'll get more than they bargained for." With a single command, the walls of the Ark Athena shifted. There was a deep, resonating hum as the living ship began to respond to Arian's commands, revealing hidden compartments and new technologies that had been dormant until now. It was like peeling back layers of a long-forgotten treasure. "By the stars," Kale whispered, his eyes wide with astonishment. "This is incredible." Arian's smile remained unchanged. "The Ark Athena is more than just a ship. It's an ancient weapon, a tool of creation and destruction. We've only just begun to understand what it can do." The room was alive with energy as the children worked together to prepare the ship. Arian could feel the ship's life force mingling with her own, an inseparable bond between them. The power of the Ark Athena was unlike anything they had ever experienced. But it wasn't just about the ship. It was about what the children could become when they combined their strength with it. As they finished their preparations, a voice came through the comms, breaking the stillness. "Arian," Kale said, his voice tight with urgency. "The Requiem Collective ships are approaching." Arian didn't hesitate. She gave the order for the ships to leave their hiding place, ready to face the enemy head-on. The children's ships emerged from the shadows of the asteroid field, the Ark Athena at the center, its living, pulsing form almost glowing with energy. They were ready. The enemy ships appeared on the horizon, sleek, dark vessels that seemed to exude menace. The leader of the Requiem Collective, Varak, was there, his cold eyes watching them from the lid ship. "Arian," Varak's voice echoed through the comms. "You think you can defeat us with your tricks. You are nothing more than children playing with forces you don't understand." Arian's expression hardened. "We understand enough," she said, her voice steady. "And we'll show you exactly what the children of the Ark Athena are capable of." The battle began in an instant. The Requiem Collective's ships moved swiftly, their weapons firing with deadly accuracy. But the children were no longer afraid. They were united, and with the Ark Athena guiding them, they fought back with strength and precision. Energy blasts lit up the dark expanse of space as the children's ships danced through the chaos, each one working in perfect harmony with the living ship at its center. Arian's hands moved swiftly over the controls, directing her ship and the others with careful precision. The Ark Athena pulsed with energy, and with each strike, the children's ships grew bolder. They weren't just fighting back, they were fighting to win. The Requiem Collected ships began to falter under the assault. One by one, their shields buckled, their weapons failing as the children's fire grew more intense. Arian could see the fear in Varak's eyes through the comms, and that was enough to drive her forward. Finally, with a final powerful strike, the last of the Requiem Collected ships exploded in a brilliant flash of light. The battle was over. Arian's heart pounded in her chest, but there was no time to celebrate. The Requiem Collective had been defeated, but they were not the only threat in the galaxy. The children had proven their strength, but the future was still uncertain. As the children regrouped, Arian looked out into the vastness of space, a quiet determination in her eyes. This was only the beginning. The galaxy was vast, and there would be more challenges ahead. But with the Ark Athena and the strength of the children, Arian knew one thing for sure. They would face them, no matter what.